London Heathrow is Europe's biggest and busiest airport, transporting more than 74 million passengers every year. Then this happened.
Coronavirus. Stay at home.
Heathrow was the world's second largest passenger airport, with a plane landing every 45 seconds. But what is it now after COVID-19? Let's time it and see. And there we go, 2.5 minutes later, the next plane landed. That's over 3 times as long as it was at its peak, and can even be as long as 15 minutes. But overall, how much has the airline industry shrunk by? Let's ask an expert.
When we're looking at a shrink, it's on many scales and many types of things. So in terms of the global fleet, we're seeing airlines retiring huge numbers of aircraft that previously weren't planned to be retired yet. So in terms of planes flying, there is a reduction. I think the bigger reduction is in the people that are working for those airlines and how many of them will not be continuing to work for them long term.
Heathrow isn't just about the airport. It's about the businesses around it, like these ones.
So some of the larger airlines, we're looking at 30 to 40% of people are taking involuntary furloughs or early retirements or otherwise separating from the company. And in terms of kind of flights that we're seeing, we went from normal levels down to 90% less than normal levels at the start of COVID. Right now we're up to about 50%. So most airlines are flying about 50% of the capacity they were this time last year. But obviously those planes aren't flying full, which is another big tell.
Heathrow's third runway was meant to be here, in this spot. But with delays, court hearings and the head of IAG saying it's not going to happen, what is the future for the third runway with the airline industry in reverse?
If Heathrow wants to grow, then it is needed. First of all, it needs to get back to where it was, and then we can look at growth again. So it's going to be that 2 to 4 year period again before the third runway is even on the table, I should imagine. But should we get back to 2019's passenger levels, and should Heathrow climb back to where it was in terms of demand, I absolutely think that the third runway will be back on the cards, but probably not until later in the decade.
Maybe we'll be able to get your Happy Meal a little bit longer. It's not just about the number of planes flying, it's also about the demise of British Airways' most iconic plane, the Boeing 747.
COVID was certainly the nail in the coffin for 747. It's unfortunate. It's a beautiful airplane. It's withstood the test of time. But it's a 4-engine airplane. It's got high maintenance costs, and it's not the most efficient to operate in this day and age. So
it was particularly a shame that it went out with such a whimper rather than a bang, because when Australian airline Qantas retired theirs, they flew some amazing kind of sightseeing flights for their frequent flyers, and they ran some really good kind of farewell ceremonies where journalists got invited, and when it left, when the last one left Australia, it drew a picture of the Qantas kangaroo in the sky as it went. So it was really a celebration more than a kind of sadness. But with British Airways, they're just off, and we don't really get a chance to say goodbye, which is very sad.
When a jumbo jet leaves Heathrow for a final time, what happens next?
There's a couple of companies that are doing kind of reclaimed 747 parts. There's a company called AeroTag, and they kind of take bits of the fuselage and turn them into key rings, and they actually label which aircraft it's come from. So if you're a bit of an av geek, that's a great memento to have. There's some other companies that are repurposing parts of the aircraft into things like desks, bits of the wing become side tables, and the windows can be made into clocks, and that's really cool. But yeah, it's all very expensive, and very expensive for the company to get into. So an awful lot of it will just end up as tin cans.
Things aren't looking good for Heathrow. How long do you think it's going to take for it to get back to normal?
From now, I think we'll just see a lot of recovery, and we'll see a lot more airlines trying to figure out where they fit, and they're trying to go where the money is.
Industry predictions are that, anything between 2 and 4 years before we see passenger demand return to normal. There's some big hurdles to overcome, particularly with the virus itself, and also, just getting the passengers confident that it is safe to fly again and it is safe to travel. So, again, I wouldn't like to put a firm number on it, but the industry is expecting anything up to kind of 4 years.
So, with Emirates promising £1,700 for a funeral if you die of COVID-19 after flying with them, and clocks being made out of the 747's fuselage, things aren't looking rosy for the airlines industry. Will we ever see Heathrow's third runway behind me? Who knows? But one thing is for sure, one of the world's biggest airports, situated in one of the world's great cities, on an island, things aren't going to stay quiet forever.